Plymouth 5:30.
5:30, excuse me. Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District, September 12, 2017.
I will make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as mailed for the August 29th meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No public comments, so we'll go on to manifest and payroll.
I make a motion that we accept the manifest and payroll as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so time to sign.
Time to sign.
Well, it's just that top one
That's it? Oh, okay, well,
in
I'll
that
not
pile.
bother.
It's just that top one.
I've seen yellow everywhere, and I thought, oh. All right, so I'll let you do that.
AP pile.
P.
Yeah, this is the, all the stuff we gotta pay out.
So that's up to you. One last thing.
And those are done.
Okay. So, new business, the long list of new business topics.
It is, I know.
Long list.
Significant agenda tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I gathered. Septage receiving units.
Yep. So I have
A-
a lengthy explanation about what's going on, and Jason was at his Granite State Water Association
Right.
board meeting today. He may stop in if you have questions. But let me-
Right.
I'll
It seems
plow
pretty
through it.
simple.
Well, yeah, and this is part of what I sent you today. As you may recall, we appropriated $1.3 million.
Yes.
We moved sheds and did some design work last year and early this
Right.
year. So of the $1.3 million, there's $1,173,000 remaining in
Yep.
the original appropriation. There's also available $285,000 in capital reserve.
Which basically puts us back up to $1.3 million.
Yeah, keep
Almost
that,
four.
keep that as an aside. The bids came in, they were high. Penta organization, which is in Moulton Borough and has a good reputation, and really wanted the work, came in at $1.5 million. So we sort of gasped. And our engineer, Mike Terrio, and Jason went, back to the drawing board. And what they're recommending is that we delete the truck scale, the foundation for the truck scale, reduce the paving, delete the drainage and the video camera network, which would provide, it's interesting how we're doing this. We would, if we do this, we would accept a bid for 1.5, but then we'd do a change order immediately for minus $354,000 instead of just netting out what we've deleted. So that, the contract amount proposed would be $1,163,700. All right, so
That
then,
doesn't include the
engineering, exactly right, which has its own sort of little complication. For the design, we approved a contract of $114,000. And as you will remember, this project morphed and moved, and we added space because of the 60 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We examined a truck scale, a used truck scale,
Right, and rejected that.
rejected that.
Yes.
But,
For good reason.
yeah, for good reason. But that took the $114,000 engineering design money to $15,000 over the 114. So Mike Terrio is proposing to add that now. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
Come on in.
Thank you for coming in.
That's how water works. Nice. Perfect. Nice entry, man.
Yeah, gotta
Tell the
love
folks at
that.
home what we
Yeah,
got.
facing it to the camera.
Tell the folks at home what she's got.
We received the
Water System of the Year award from the Granite State Rural Water Association for
Just in.
2017.
Thank you. All right, so
Just in.
I'm walking down through the septic unit stuff. So the result of all this is that we would be 137,844 over the appropriation if we choose to proceed. And another note is that to get us back to whole, we'd need $450,000 to add what was deleted plus the grit pad in another year, to appropriate it next year, if we wanted to. So here's the recommendation: to proceed with Penta for the net contract of $1,163,700 and remove $140,000 from capital reserve to meet the expense amount, leaving $145,000. And I didn't bring Mike in here, but I wanted to. But anyway, Jason's here. He's been in.
Well,
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask, I thought the truck scale was sort of important.
Yeah.
it's all important,
Yeah.
right? I'm
Yeah.
sure
Right.
that's what I'm expecting to hear.
And the thing about it is we can't guarantee at district meeting that people are going to vote to approve another 400 and some odd $1,000
Right.
to get the truck scale. So can we exist without the truck scale?
We can keep on the honor system that we're currently on. Obviously, that was a recommendation from our auditors, and we would like to gain more accurate accountability for what we're actually taking in. Typically, septage would be estimated, I think, on the lower end of things. Usually septic haulers don't estimate on the higher end that they're bringing in.
Right.
So, it is the potential to gain revenue with the more accurate measurements with the truck scale. The big cost factor in the truck scale was about $90,000 worth of the helical pilings that we needed to support the foundation of the scale with the organic layer of soils that we have about 20 feet below the surface. So that was really a huge.
Holy cow, they have to put pilings in 20 feet down?
Yeah.
Well,
And it was
imagine what-
$90,000 worth of pilings just for the truck scale alone.
Holy,
Just because of the depth to rock,
Holy
because the huge
There's
sand
a-
formation that's there.
An organic ash layer, from my understanding, that's about 20 feet down across the whole site. That's why we have settlement in the old part of the A-frame building, all the cracks in the walls and the floors. So anything that's being built on this site now will require these pilings.
holy moly.
That was one of the things with the 3 tanks we're putting in as well. They'll require pilings.
So out of this 147, 90 is for the pilings?
No,
No, that's
the
engineering.
engineering for the construction phase, plus of that,
Yeah.
15,000 is.
How much are the truck scales roughly?
The truck scale, we've got some estimates just for the scale alone of about 80,000.
87,000?
Yeah, something around there.
What would be the value about going to more of a less expensive, more like portable scale to get, and it wouldn't be perfect, but it'd get you closer to the state police have portable scales they use to weigh trucks,
Right,
and they
good point.
can pick them up and
That's
move
a
them.
very good point.
And they're less expensive, but it's some level of, it's some
Confidence.
something. If someone comes in and says I weigh 15 pounds, when you know they don't weigh 15, this can at least put you in the zone of accuracy, and it would be portable. It can be moved around a little bit, and it would cost a lot less than that.
That was my question too, was, even if we went with an $80,000 truck scale, what is the required, I guess you'd say, levelness, or what's the tolerance in settling that would be
Yeah.
allowed? If it settled 4 or 6 inches over 20 years, could we jack the slab up, and balance it, or
Engineers
does the
don't work that
scale
way.
does the scale come with some sort of an adjustment that we can make
Well, if it's a portable scale, I would think it would have to have something like that because they
Yeah.
can't guarantee
I mean,
that where they're going
the
is
truck
gonna be
stops are
level.
used at, the truck scales are used at truck stops and they're paved. So you could theoretically make a patch as big as this table with a footing under it and pave it, and a truck wheel can roll up on the scale. It wouldn't be perfect because you're not going 20 feet down,
Right.
but it would be level, it'd be hard, and it would give you something.
Mhm.
So that could be an easy fix.
If we,
Yeah.
if we do this the way that it's proposed, we've got time to look at portable ones and
Yeah.
figure out the next step.
Yeah, I think one could argue the cost benefit of, spending this 450, the recapture on that, I mean, how long is it gonna
Like
take us
a
to
year and a
recap?
half.
At current.
How long?
Our revenue for septic receiving is 300,000.
A year, so you said
A
a year and a half to recap that?
Yeah.
Well, that's-
Just the 450,000,
Well, I would argue that,
right?
if they're under reporting by 10%, that it would only be 10% of that, so our recapture really is more like 15 or 20 years.
For the whole project, you mean? I'm sorry.
No, for the scale portion of it.
No, how can that be?
No, we get 300,000 a year in revenue.
Right, I follow what Chris is saying.
I know,
though.
but-
Yeah.
Oh, I don't, go ahead.
What Chris is saying is, what if that's 10% low?
Oh,
And then we're gonna invest a huge hunk of money to recover this 10%, which is gonna be years.
Oh, yeah, all right.
The
You're
other thing,
looking at the
though-
difference, not
Right.
the total
right,
cost. Got it.
Right.
what Jason's anticipating with this new wonderful septic receiving unit is increasing our volume also. So that's a factor we don't know, but there have been haulers that have talked about wanting to come in because we're.
But their key consideration, though, is speed getting in and out of there, which we will be providing them, correct?
Right.
The scale is not impeding.
The scale is really, they don't care how you weigh them. They just want to be close to what they estimate. So they have customers that they're telling them, do you have a 1,000-gallon tank or a 1,200-gallon tank? Well, if you put 3,000 gallons down and you think they're all 1,000-gallon tanks, but really
One
they're
is at
1,200-gallon
1,200.
tanks.
Yeah, you're off by
And
6.
those three tanks are on a truck. That's 600 gallons on a truck more.
Right.
That we're not billing.
That's not being accounted for.
Right.
Some of the trucks have windows, so you
Yeah.
can see where the.
But those are
level is.
pretty rough estimates
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think there's an argument for
Yep, I think,
Steve's
Yeah,
solution here.
Steve's
A
idea
strong
is
argument.
excellent.
yeah, I think
Right.
definitely looking into it further to reassess, the extent of the need.
Yeah, I would,
And
and I
we
would
have any-
check right with the state police traffic people. I mean, they have them
Yeah.
scales all over the state. I'm sure they have a lot of comfort level with the product and the reps and how good they are, so,
right,
yeah.
Good idea.
Excellent.
and
That's a great
the
idea.
grit pad is out as well. We're getting separate estimates on that now from contractors that we use outside of Penta. So there was actually one contractor that put the bid in under Apex's bid that's familiar with the plans already. So we should be seeing cost estimates from them within a week or two.
One thing that happened in this round was that Penta did one bid, which is what they
Yes, and I wanted to
requested
ask
do.
about that, yes.
Here's for the project.
Yeah,
So-
lump sum.
Lump sum. So when Jason and Mike went back to them and said, well, how much would it cost if we took this out? They were really reluctant because, and one of the differences between the bidders was, who was the other one?
Apex.
Apex
Yeah.
had, they sort of front-loaded their base bid and then their alternates were lower. So it was hard to compare because Penta didn't do that.
Right.
So it was, you think though we could get the grid, what is it? The
Grit pad, yeah.
Grit pad for less money than
Penta
what Penta was
was,
anticipating, right?
what is a grit pad used for?
It's for the grit that we receive from the septage will be separated out in the tanks. And we'll be taking that grit out of the tanks and drying it on this pad so that
Okay,
we can dispose of it in a dumpster.
okay.
So it doesn't seem
So
like.
it's
Does
a-
You can't take liquids in dumpster, you gotta have solid.
right, because they're charging you by the ton essentially.
Right.
So water weight obviously is a lot more
Do
than,
we have to finish it like we did compost, like it has to get hot
no.
to get rid of
No,
ickies?
there's no regulations on disposing of it. It's truly up to the disposal company what they can take and what they can't accept.
Do we have a disposal company in mind and know their rules and
Yep,
regulations?
we've been talking with our current,
RMI.
RMI?
not RMI, Chris Witcher.
Oh, it would go to him?
Yep.
Because it's not composty stuff?
No, it will be disposed of
Okay.
at a landfill or recycled some other way. If he can pull the material out that's not acceptable
Okay,
and recycle
The
it.
the other thing I just want to note to remember, we get into all this financing, is we're going to get back from USDA RD 25% of the total. Once, that's our grant portion.
okay.
You know, that helps.
So, right, that goes back to, the next phase as well. If we hold the scale and the pad off maybe till the spring, under a new warrant article, we would have the opportunity to bunch that with other projects and possibly ask, reapply for RD funding on that. Whereas if we try to do something on our own, that won't be covered under RD funding. So we'll have to weigh the costs out there as well.
Okay.
And that's something we'll provide you folks with.
For this, we'll get 25% based on eligible costs under the original appropriation of 1.3 million, because that's their promise to us.
Reduced limits of paving, well, how do we address that shortcoming?
Let me just answer. We're leaving 145,000 in capital reserve under this, and I've been concerned about the paving too, because it needs to be a paved site.
Mm-hmm.
Next, this is when, I'm not even sure when this will start or complete in the spring. This is gonna be a long construction, but
This will be starting, if all goes through, we'd probably start in 2 weeks.
and we could pave in the spring with some residual monies if the board chooses to do that, or we put it back into,
The other,
right, and leave the money in capital reserve.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a critical,
Right.
you
I
can't just
agree.
overlook
We just-
that.
It was a thing we knew we could take out
Right.
to get started.
We would leave the existing paving that's currently in place right now. The paving that's proposed under this proposal would be 10 by 10 foot squares around each septage receiving unit, so that if anything is spilled in that area, it would go to the unit.
okay,
So that would cover that. Everything else that's currently gravel would remain gravel.
We want it paved.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
It just needs to be.
It was just a
Mm.
thing we could identify that the project could get going and we could do later.
Yeah, and we are also soliciting additional paving quotes as well on our own.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
our pavers might be a little less expensive.
Right,
Yeah, I
the
think-
general
I
contractor.
think they had $32 a square yard for paving.
And,
Even Mike's opinion was that was a little high for additional paving.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Bank financing.
No, we need
Need
a
to
motion.
Oh,
We
right,
need a
right,
motion,
oh,
we
yeah.
need 3 chair signatures.
Didn't realize we're
Yeah, this is
commitments here.
a commitment.
Oh, commitments. Okay. Well,
There's three items there,
oh dear.
but you should vote and authorize Chris to sign.
All right, so I make a motion, we.
Vote on this right here? Or
Yeah,
what?
on this plan.
Okay.
I make a motion, we accept the septic receiving unit contract with Penta with changes as discussed. Holding off on the truck scale, the paving, and taking money out of capital reserve.
And approving the engineering contract
Right.
as
Right.
well.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now I make a motion that Chris sign the agreement.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Have fun. You're gonna own a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, gosh.
Penta was looking for work.
Yeah, I told him
Yeah.
that last week, yeah. Yeah, and I repeated it
Yeah.
tonight.
So, were they or were they not looking?
No, they were looking for work. They really wanted this job. They just could not, they couldn't travel to Pennsylvania further, apparently. I mean, that was their best.
Do
They
we
wanted the
know
work.
why Pierce and Penta were so far off from each other?
Well, that might be a discussion for another time. I know Mike was mortified.
Okay,
It's not a typical project.
right.
Right, yeah,
So it's
that's,
very unique in its design, whereas, a normal package plant is something that everyone,
Right,
plants
you
do
know
every
what
day.
you,
And
right.
so this is definitely something that's unprecedented in both the septage and engineering world.
Okay, good, we're breaking ground, ha ha ha.
Yeah, let's hope our experiment
Works.
works.
I assume I'm signing under owner here in the,
You
Yeah,
are
I
the
mean,
owner.
it's just the
Yeah.
language, not to worry. We can fill in your credentials too, you don't have to worry.
I gave a presentation today on the project at the operator field day as well, and there was a lot of good comments and responses to what we're doing, so, from people from other systems and DES.
Good.
So I wanted you here for this if you could, and you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. 'cause
Sure.
you've
No,
had-
I'll stay.
You've had a long day, I realize.
all right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
all three locations signed.
All right. So the bank financing should be easy.
Yes,
And we got quotes from MVSB and Woodsville Guarantee. Woodsville Guarantee comes in at 2.75 on a 20-year loan for the two Foster Street projects, the road and the well house. And 2% for the 5-year loan for the Holderness School well drilling and permitting. So that one has to be a 5-year loan, so that was a little separate. MVSB's rates were higher,
No.
and
A lot higher.
yeah, quite a bit higher. I don't know, I'm not, I'm a little surprised, but we actually are borrowing a lot less than the appropriations for these, and we had to get back to Woodsville to say, well, look, this bid came in less, the well house is gonna be less, will you honor those rates for, rather than 851,000, it's 765,000, they said
Right.
yes.
Nice.
Yes, so it's my recommendation that we have the board approve financing with Woodsville, and we'll get all the paperwork together. And
I'll make a motion, we go to financing for Woodsville for the projects that we submitted to them.
So moved.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
It's
yeah,
always
and-
good when the interest rates are low.
yes,
Yeah, and credit to our treasurer for doing all this legwork,
yes.
and we'll have money to pay these bills when they start to come in.
Next item, credit apps for Northeast Electrical Distributors and Northern Tool and Lessman Instruments.
Yeah, these are actually three
Oh.
applications for credit, and my job is to just advise you that I've signed these credit applications. It's pretty routine,
Yes,
Okay.
and so there were
Agreed.
three.
okay. Pemmy River Local Advisory Committee Visit Update.
Right, and Jason's here, and so I could start to report, but it was really his visit. Because of the work we're doing with the septic unit, the advisory council or committee wanted to visit the plant and find out what we were doing and any environmental impacts. So two of them were able to go. Mike O'Donnell, who was from Holderness,
He still is.
right?
Cop,
Yep.
ex-cop, yeah.
Yeah.
And Tom, is it Tom Bolton?
No, Bill.
Bill Bolton.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of his name today. And so they became very interested in what we were doing, and then Bill Bolton, who's also a select person, asked if he knew when we were going to dig up Main Street, and Jason just advised him the same thing we advised Mr. McIver last week, 2 weeks ago, that it's pending.
We just don't know.
Yeah. But one of the things that came up was we had heavy rainfall just before this meeting, and so Jason took the opportunity to show them what kind of inflow we get from rainstorms because of the storm drain.
Nice,
Is-
Jason, very
Wanna pick up
good.
the story from there?
Yep, so this was last Wednesday morning is when they came in for the tour, and
6:30, 6 o'clock?
Yep, 6:30 in the morning, and that was best available for them, and that was fine with me. But they were mostly interested in impacts that we have in regard to the shoreline, obviously, because we filed a shoreline permit for the paving and the project there. So I gave them a tour and explained them to that, and the night before we had really heavy rain, so I was able to take them and give them a tour of our SCADA system, which shows trends. We have a chart that shows trends, and
Yep.
the
those
night
are
before,
streets.
it spiked up to about 1.8 million gallons during the rain event, and I was able to show them the night before that was dry. We were down around 0.2 million gallons, kind of a flat line. So, just really, I think it opened their eyes, the impacts that stormwater and rain events do have on our system, and advised them that we would continue to work with the town to fix the issues with the storm drain connections and further separate our systems, so that we're not seeing that those kind of events impact the
Yeah,
plant.
the DES gets nasty when we get up that high. They
Mhm.
don't like
A
us when we
million
do that.
gallons of stormwater,
Mhm.
wow.
Mr. O'Donnell was taking the opportunity to encourage Selectman Bolton to look at this through different eyes than they have, that, the town really should work with us to get that infiltration and inflow out of the plant so we don't have to process it. So I thought that was encouraging.
Nice,
Yep.
very nice.
Next up, council for the public
Yeah.
visit
Yeah.
regarding Northern Pass.
Yeah, and those of you that are following Northern Pass know that, the applicant is Eversource, and there are interveners who are municipalities and others. And there has been appointed by the SEC, a counsel for the public, who is Tom Pappas. And he came to visit us with a whole army of engineers who don't work in New Hampshire. Generally, they're electrical consultants from New York, and the others are from Maryland. So they can be objective, they don't work with anybody here. And they sat down with Jason and I, and they looked through the plans and identified where our water and sewer lines are and our structures. And they asked a lot of questions that we would ask about what would be the impact on our project if Northern Pass is approved. It was very good and very thorough, and they'll ask questions at the hearing as a result of what they learned today.
Okay.
They don't make a report necessarily, Tom Pappas is the attorney that'll stand up and ask the witnesses questions to get this information out on the table. So,
And those engineers will be, what, expert witnesses?
they
or
are expert witnesses,
Oh,
yes.
that's
So they
good.
were doing their due diligence with us.
But yeah, the plans we reviewed with them were the plans that were originally submitted last December, which was Northern Pass's first iteration of their alignment. In subsequent meetings with DOT, DOT was able to make comments on our behalf for some of the specifications that we have. So we are still waiting on possible revisions from Northern Pass, different from those plans that we discussed. So all of that information may not be pertinent if the requirements change that DOT puts forward, their responses to some of Northern Pass's submittals.
It's like there's iteration, questions, comments, new iteration, and that continues.
Right.
So there's a whole list on DOT's
mess.
website of all the dialogue back and forth with them over the last last year essentially,
Yeah.
and they meet on a monthly basis. So we're still at this point waiting to see what the next step is in regard to Northern Pass's design, and we have contacted and reached out to them on an engineering level as well. So I anticipate a meeting shortly.
Their engineers are ready to meet with
Right.
us now, so that'll get in the works. The other thing we learned, I think, more about the timetable. There may be, if things go well, depending on when the hearings end, they're due to end December 22nd, that there could be an oral decision in February, and then a written one in March, which has to be reviewed, and there is likely to be appeals, and the project could actually go forward even during an appeal period either at Eversource's risk, or, they could do some things that they could reverse
Right.
if it ultimately fails. So
We're still talking not till at least 2019 or so,
I would
correct?
think so. That's I would think so. So,
Yikes.
yeah. So I just wanted to let you know about that.
I presume that the new request to access manholes is related to Northern Path?
Well, yes, this was interesting. You remember last year at this time, we had a survey group ask if they could pop manholes, and we went through this whole thing.
And they've been out here in the past week or more?
Different ones, yeah.
Right.
So with the other folks, we gave them a couple choices, and we ended up opening manholes for them, about 40, and they paid for everything. Nothing broke, but they paid for our people.
It took about a day and a half.
Dan, we told them if anything broke, you were paying for it. That was your conditions that they opened them. So last week, this new group just came into town and started popping manhole covers, and without being in touch. And then when they got frustrated because they couldn't open 6, then they called Jason. So we did not know they were doing this, although I saw them and other staff folks saw them when we were driving around town. I didn't know if it was the town doing something or what. You slow down and say, what are they doing? Is they doing it for us, or what's
I
going
saw
on?
them too and didn't even think to
Well, I did
call.
think, but anyway, you don't expect people to come into your town and start popping manhole covers, but, so now they have a formal request. Jason stopped them, and,
Cease and desist order?
Cease and desist, well, we
I
didn't have
expressed
to.
that I was highly not happy about it.
Well, and listen, you should know, I let Paul Ramsey, the Vice President of Operations at Eversource, know about this as soon as Jason let me know on Thursday that this was going on. And these folks left town before Jason got a hold of them. And let me just finish.
Sure.
Paul Ramsey is mortified that this happened. It's not how they want to do business. He's worked hard to establish a good relationship with me, as I have with him. And he wants to call to apologize to you. He'll probably call you tomorrow. I told him you were tied up today, so.
It's not like we're the only town that they're surveying in,
Right.
so.
Well, yes, and some of the towns don't have people around. Some of the smaller towns,
Right.
who do you ask to open the manholes?
Right.
So we do, and Eversource did not intend for this to happen. So this company, SGC, now has backed up, and they've written.
That's their sub.
Yeah, that's their sub.
Yep, so yeah, it's Burns and McDonnell are the overriding engineer on the project. Their general contractor is PAR Electric, and SGC is the surveying crew for the general contractor. I was contacted shortly after by PAR Electric, apologizing and wanting me to reiterate the process. So that's why I explained to them that they have to submit a formal request in writing to Marilise and I, and we'll take it to the board after we had reviewed it. So that's what they have done. I also spoke with Sam Johnson of Burns and McDonnell this morning, and he apologized. He'd like to meet again to discuss things further, their next steps and all. So that they have been responsive to it, but we did, like I said, note our displeasure of them taking the authority to do that.
Have we checked the manholes to make sure everything is copacetic?
That's the thing, we don't know exactly which 6.
Oh, geez,
So they want to look at 40. And I also explained to Paul Ramsey today that our deal with the other surveyors was if one breaks while we're opening it for you, you own it. These folks can't open 6, and we don't know if they're broken or if they have already tried to open them and broke them.
Which is a
So-
huge liability for the district.
Right.
But Paul Ramsey said, if we think that they were broken with their attempts, to let him know, and that he does not want to, he wants to be able to have a good.
Sam reiterated that today,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
Okay.
he said you had every right to be upset, because I use you for the heavy on this one. So anyway, same conditions as the first surveyors. They pay for our people's time. We open it. We open the manhole. They pay for our people's time. And if anything breaks,
They break it, they own it.
yeah,
Right,
that was the condition with the original.
Yep,
group,
fair
which we
enough.
would have done with them.
Yes,
okay.
only fair.
Okay.
And from my understanding, the reason they're doing this additional surveying is to correct the first set of plans because there was a lot of missing information on the water and sewer utilities.
Okay.
Do we need a motion on that? Do we need to approve?
Well, you can, or you can just direct me to, use the same conditions as you would approve last year.
Yes,
I'll take it as a consensus direction.
Okay, yep.
yeah.
There's another. The O&M letter. I was
Yes.
going to share that with the board, but, I can't find it. Here it is. Jason has worked on the O&M
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
plan, and he got a letter, an email back today from DES saying, great job, comprehensive, well-done reports, with a couple of comments, but it meets all of their comments and recommendations as outlined, so that's
Nice,
good work.
very
So yeah,
good,
this was
Jason.
a compilation of the original O&M plan that was submitted in 2011 for CMOM, for
Yep,
the collection system. I revised it in 2015 and submitted it for reapproval because so much had changed between 2011 and 2015. And then the last 2 years, it's a requirement to send an annual update and summary of our activities based on this O&M manual. So that's what essentially the 3 documents DES finally was able to review and comment on. So I've been waiting for a couple of years to hear back from them, and they finally have followed through and everything looks good, so. like Mel
And
said.
as you mentioned to me, or I think it's in here, Jason sort of chased down some information from PSU and from Holderness School that we needed for this, and so they cooperated and we got it finally, and we're able to include it included in. So this is
Yeah,
this
DS
is
was
good.
very pleased to hear that they noted in there.
Pleased to read about it.
Yeah.
So that's good. Good stuff.
Okay, lastly,
we're going into non-public for that.
all right,
Well, why don't we do that at the end?
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
But we've got the audit management letter I just
Yes.
wanted to point out, and
Yep.
the POs.
Yes.
Yep. Audit management letter then?
Yeah, there's a copy here for each of you, and the auditors, the way they do it is they say, this is what we asked you to do last year, and this is what we've done about it. So there are a couple where they state what our improvement was, and there's a couple where they tell us what we have to improve upon,
Yep.
which is part of reconciliation, making sure we have monthly reconciliation signed by 2, and that practice is now current, instituted. So we are
Doing all the dual signatures and
doing the
things
dual
that,
signatures, yes, and making sure that everything matches.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, we got an unqualified, no material findings, so these are just sort of
Minor.
ways that we can prove,
Right.
yeah, we'll do it.
Yep.
Okay,
Looks good. I have other old business, if that's okay. When
Yes.
do we have to change over from our current electricity provider to the new
Oh,
one?
in November,
Okay,
it's on my calendar.
I figured it was, but
Yeah.
it lost my calendar,
Yeah, no, I
so
got
my
it.
brain just thought about it when we were talking about electrical distributors and things like that, so.
Yeah.
all right, purchase recs up next. We have this week 5 purchase recs as follows. First is $730.04 payable to Advanced Lock and Alarm for repair of the fire alarm in the trailer bay. Number 2, PO in the amount of $828 even to Forrest Howe for new tires on one of the trucks.
For inspection, right, Judy?
Mhm.
Number 3, PO in the amount of $3,000 even, payable to Wright Pierce for engineering on the septage unit.
Which is part of that 147.
Yes, okay. Number 4, PO in the amount of $1,300 even, payable to Stonkus Hydraulic to troubleshoot the Parco valve on well 1, which is not closing.
And it's only 2 years old.
Wait,
No, that's, well 2 is 2 years old. This one's older than that.
Okay.
Yeah, well 1.
And there's no, I asked Fred today, I ran into him, there's no
Warranty.
warranty on it,
Yeah.
no.
Number 5, last is PO in the amount of $5,978 payable to Harcross for quicklime to refill.
Right, and the
The lime silo.
follow-up to that is, that's because the lime silo
Is
silo
done.
is finished and
Yes.
back, it's ready to be back online when we get the lime.
I might
Aye.
note that Harcross only has one S. But
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to accept the purchase orders as written by the chair,
Thank you, Steve.
as read by the chair.
second.
all those in favor?
Read and corrected. Corrected the typo.
Gotta have some edit, you know, that's,
Exactly. No, I do appreciate it, actually.
and,
We need to sign.
yes. Sorry, I'm a little bit.
Do we know what RSA?
Yeah, I do, because I wrote it down. Jason, you can stay if you want.
Sure.
You can be critical to this discussion.
Yep.
We want to go into non-public session under 91-A:3, Roman 2C.
Okay, I make a motion that we go into non-public session pertinent to RSA 91A-3, Section 2C.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.